It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
Justin Marshall joins us. Marshy, welcome back, mate. I'm still sitting here and I feel like such a sourpuss. I want to celebrate that victory, but the way that the game ended and how we collapsed at the end, I just can't.
Yeah, I obviously think that because of the drama that was created in the finish after the blockbuster start, people are kind of a little bit confused of how to feel emotionally, aren't they, Marty? That it's kind of like, well, we had the game completely under control and it looked like it was going to be 50 points when they ran into the sheds at half-time, even though Australia had started to show a tiny little bit of resistance. And then obviously the way the second half unfolded, and we could have very nearly lost the test match or even drawn it, it's kind of left people a little bit unsure as to how to gauge the performance.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And a couple of things which, just jump out immediately. Justin, we always look for patterns. You look for patterns. When we haven't scored a point in the last 20 minutes, when we're continuing to unravel in the last 20 minutes, 2 tests is enough, 3 tests. When it gets to 6 tests, it's a real concern, isn't it?
Yeah, it is because, we spoke to Scott Robertson on Sky after the test match, and that was the one thing that he actually did say. He just said, hey, man, we can start. Because I thought they started really well in both test matches in South Africa as well. And to be fair, for 60 minutes or 50 minutes, they are looking a very good side and playing positively. And they are, to me, from the English series, looking a lot more creative. And they are on attack, making line breaks, creating opportunities. But the problem is, it seems to be in those last sort of, quarters, they're not capitalising on, and whether that's because when they're making the changes off the bench and all of a sudden there's disruption from what the starting team did to get to that point, and then it's not quite clicking when the subs come on, i.e. the bomb squad in South Africa who come on and then sometimes change the game or at least continue the momentum. We just seem to be buttoning off for some reason. I can't put my finger on why, and I don't think he can either.
Justin, whose responsibility is it to take charge in the last 20 minutes? We've got 3 All Black captains on there, so we're not lacking experience. We've also, got a first 5 who's now played 7 tests this year for the All Blacks, so he's had time under his belt as well. Is it a combination of on-field leaders? Is it meant to come from the coaching box? Whose actual responsibility is it?
Well, it's the players' responsibility. They know exactly where the game is at. There's enough experience, as you rightly said, Marty, for players there that have been in those situations before, like whether they're chasing the game, whether they're trying to basically get the game finished from a good performance by making sure they're doing and making the right decisions in that last quarter. All of those dynamics come into it, and they certainly need to make sure that they are making good decisions, that they are doing things that are right for the team, and equally not allowing the opposition back into the game when they are trying to secure a test match. And you just get the feeling now that that's what they're doing. Look, I don't think Australia helped themselves either, to be perfectly honest. If we're going to be critical, I think Joe Schmidt would have been pulling his hair out as well. When you've got a team down to 13 men and you make basic handling errors and throw the ball away, well, that's nearly even worse than what the All Blacks were doing, particularly when you've put yourself in a position to win the game. So I thought in both teams there was a lot of inaccuracy in that last 20 minutes, and that's probably why both teams are not on a par at the moment with South Africa, Ireland, and to a degree France, because they seem to be much more proficient at that time of the game to make sure all the good work that they've done is not undone in the last 10, 15 minutes.
Marshy, we're always looking for a perfect performance, right? Now, I don't know how many I've seen since I've been watching the All Blacks in 1975, but I'll go back to Wellington 43-6 and that beautiful howling southerly when you were playing against the Oz, and that's as near a perfect performance as I can ever remember. There were times in this game where the All Blacks were just exhilarating, weren't they? That first 15 minutes, It was like 2000 all over again. And then within the same 80 minutes, we unravel. There's chaos, uncertainty, bad decision-making, errors, all of these kind of things. I think that's what a lot of us are struggling to get our heads around. And it's not a negative, Nelly. It's not criticism. It's just trying to find the answer to it, because how can you be that brilliant and then that ugly in the same 80 minutes?
Yeah, well, and that's it, isn't it? Like, a lot of it's discipline as well. The amount of yellow cards they're conceding, they're certainly getting on the wrong side of the referee a lot. So far this season, quite heavily penalised and quite regularly getting players sin-binned and sin-binned under pressure. You know, the Caleb Clark one was just him having a bit of a mind explosion, you know, at a time that was really important. But, you know, the Anton Leonard-Brown one was just off the back of the team giving away way too many penalties in the wrong zone, and it's been consistent. Think of South Africa when Lomax got sent off. Like, it's been quite a regular feature in the All Blacks this year that they're having problems with the referee and their own discipline. And I don't think they're getting picked on. I certainly think that a lot of those yellow cards, in fact, probably all of them are justified, and so are the penalties and the penalty warnings. So, yeah, you're quite right. Like, they were breathtaking, honestly, in huge portions of that game. And let's not think that some of those were in the second half. You know, like at the end of the day, I think they pretty much butchered 3 opportunities, and a couple of those opportunities, like the McKenzie pass, man, they did well to pick that up. It was really hard to pick up live. It could have kind of changed the game dramatically.
Yep,
Equally,
yep.
Artie being held up over the line, Nick White to get like a fingertip under Artie, and then obviously McKenzie's pass back inside to Tamaiti Williams. You know, like, a lot of people criticised him for that. What they probably didn't realise was he actually didn't have control of the ball. He was juggling it. So he actually couldn't execute the pass properly. So, you know, here's 3 instances where that game would have been a completely different situation in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it would have been way over. I mean, that was the thing. One of those
so
tries.
They are creating, Marty, aren't they? They are still creating, even though they had a shitty second half compared to the first. There was still probably 3 tries that were there that were very unlucky not to have eventuated into tries.
You've gone through this as well. We have been part of a brilliant All Black side, then an All Black side that starts losing matches as well. And we're not a team that gets belted and blown off the park. It may happen every now and again, but normally what happens when we lose is we're always in the game. We're bloody close, but we just aren't quite there. And you look at the 2 South African tests, 4 and 6 points exactly. So, you know, this is the frustrating thing about it. You can kind of see. I mean, Razor said at the start of the season, Justin, that he wants the All Blacks to play, that we're going to have to actually do what we do. You echo this as well. We're going to have to be smart. We're going to have to be fast. We're going to have to attack at pace. We're going to have to use space, all of these things. You can kind of see that. But I suppose it's just it all coming together. And how much patience do we have? Because we're 8 tests now into the year.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously, you know, winning, though, however, does bring confidence. And, you know, at the end of the day, leading into that test match, the All Blacks had lost 3 of their last 4. So the team's not exactly in the clouds, are they? You know, they're very firmly feet on the ground because they've conceded 3 losses in their last 4 tests. Now, look, I agree with you. They were in a position to win all 3 of those test matches they lost. So that in itself, if you're ever going to put a positive spin on it, is a positive. Let's not take away from the fact that, you know, against the world champions in both test matches, they were in the test match to win it. They just got beaten by a side that is actually even more experienced and at the moment doesn't know how to lose in test matches in South Africa, albeit they got rolled at the weekend.
Yeah.
There's a lot more in that, you know. That was Marcy with his selection thing and a few, you know, a little bit of probably them just being a little bit arrogant and they've been bitten for it. But, but you know, back onto the All Blacks, look, that is ultimately what they're judged on, isn't it, Marty? Look, we can play with all the razzle-dazzle showmanship in the world, but what our expectations are in this country is that we're winning test matches, regardless of how we're winning them. We're winning them, and unfortunately, we're not at the moment. And what we've got to do is mature into making sure, for all the good things we're doing, we're turning them into good results. And at the moment, that's not quite happening. So this team needs to grow up and grow up really quick.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.